Hear my plea, oh Jah, a song for my land. I want everybody, get up out your seats, put your hands in the air like this. Help me sing. Rose up early this morning to the sounds of crying. Another mother shedding her tears. Oh Jah, why all the pain and suffering? Why all the senseless killing? Could it be that nobody cares? So no. So many sons lost in the slaughter, blood running in the streets like water. A gun in hand knows no friend. No, warmongers selling death in my land, getting rich off the souls of the children. Can you tell me when will it end? Sing! How many more Jah must carry this load? Oh Jah, how many more Jah before we trot down Zion Road? How many more? Sing wayo, wayo, wayo. Come on, let me see those hands. Heavenly Father, won't you hear my plea? Send a helping hand for the country. In man, there's no solution. No, I'm begging for the children's future. Oh, Jah, drugs got them by the collar. How can we stop this mind pollution? Too many starving and too many hungry. Too many homeless souls in the city. It seems like there's no. Too many big shots with too much connections. Too many loopholes in Babylon system. Oh Jah, how can your children go? Sing, how many more Jah must carry this load? How many more Jah before we trot down Zion Road? What you let me see those hands. Let me see the hands. If you care about your children, get up, let me see you. We can't go on each day, no. We got to find a better way. People, it's up to each of you to help our children through this cruel and torrid life, 'cause it's we who created the strife. Say, how many more time must carry this load? How many more time before we drop down Zion Road? How many more? How many more? How many more time? Hey, how many more? How many more? Oh, yeah. Won't you hear my plea? I'm down on bended knees. Oh, yeah. How many more? How many more? I said I rose up early this morning to the sounds of crying, another mother shedding her tears. Oh, yeah. How many more? 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 Thank you.
Oh yes, just just bringing us back to consciousness. That song, that calypso, is still relevant. Good evening, and welcome to Politics 101. If you're joining us from further afield, it's good night, and for some of you, good afternoon. Those of you who are joining us from the West Coast of the United States, California, Arizona, it's still afternoon there in those places. And if you're on the East Coast of the United States and in the Caribbean in Guyana, it's evening. And of course, if you're joining us from Europe, from the United Kingdom, it's good night. Welcome to Politics 101. It's good to be with you. We were off last evening. And we're on tonight. And we're coming to you tonight from Guyana. We're coming to you tonight from Guyana. It's good to be home. Um, we last night we were off because of travel and so on. But so we're coming to you from Guyana. We're coming for you from Guyana. It's a nice evening in Guyana. I ventured out today onto the road and went downtown. Um, uh, and the usual thing. Let me say a good evening to a big shout out to the sisters, two ladies who, as soon as I stepped out of the car, I walked right into them dark eyes. And, you know, she gave me quite a mouthful. Um, and I'm trying to remember the names, but it's two sisters from Leopold Street, and they said they're on every evening. And so if you're on, the sisters from Leopold Street, good evening to you. And for all the people in that part of Georgetown, good evening, good evening, good evening. To all my people in Buxton and the east coast of Demerara, uh, I usually spend most of my time in that part of the country. Um, welcome. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening, Lynette. Yes, thank you very much. It's good to be home. It's always good to be home. You know, short said nobody go run me from where me come from. Me papa must nyam, me mama must nyam. And so we are here. We're expecting Tacuma Ogunseye and Nigel London tonight. So you know we're going to be doing it. Tacuma Ogunseye and Nigel London, they're here tonight. We still have not confirmed the opposition leader who should have been back this week, and we're still expecting him to be here. He hasn't confirmed yet tomorrow. We have him scheduled for tomorrow. He hasn't confirmed yet. Hopefully he will, and in short order. Good evening. We started off tonight, of course, with the everlasting sound of Johnny King. John King. I have to be very careful. This is John King out of Barbados. How many more? Because Johnny King is out of Trinidad. Johnny King is out of Trinidad. John King. How many more? Almost like an anthem at a given time, a point in time when we are losing so many of our young men and now young women to street violence.
We can't go on each day. No, we got to find a better way. People, it's up to each of you to help our children through this cruel and torrid life. Cause it's we who created the strife. Say, how many more times must carry this load? How many more times before we drive down Zion Road? Oh, how many more? How many more? How many more times? Hey, how many more? How many more? Oh, dear. Won't you hear my plea? I'm down on bended knees. Oh, yeah. How many more? How many more? I said I rose up early this morning to the sounds of crying, another mother shedding her tears. Oh, dear. How many more? 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 Thank you.
Oh, one of the important songs coming out of our Caribbean in this time, and how many more? Always remembering those who were felled by the guns of the state. You know, Bob Marley in the 1970s, you know, sang Johnny Was. Johnny was a good man. He was shot by a stray bullet, all because of the system. Bob Marley, woman, hold her head and cry, for her son has been shot down in the street and died. All because of the system. This Bob Marley singing there in the early 1970s in his first album in 1973, Catch a Fire. So 50 years ago, Bob Marley was singing about systemic violence. Systemic violence. Now we are getting used to that term. Bob Marley, you know, woman hold her head and cry, for her son has been shot down in the street and died. All because of the system. Can a woman's tender care cease towards the child she bear? Our brother was singing that. And John King, much later, echoing the same theme. How many more? How many more? How many more? And we in Guyana continue to ask us questions. How many more of our young men and women must die? And these days, it's not just the physical death, the police shooting and killing and so on. It's also economic death. Economic death. Economic death. Orlando Patterson, a sociologist, and you all should know that name. He's one of the top sociologists coming out of Jamaica. When I was a little boy going to school, he had written a novel called Children of Sisyphus. But he's one of the top sociologists. And he came up with the concept of social death. That what slavery and post-slavery did to Black people is to kill us socially. So even though we may be physically alive, what slavery and colonialism and neocolonialism have done is that they have killed us socially. So he came up with the term social death. And now we can add to that economic death. Economic death. What they're doing to the teachers is nothing short of killing the teachers economically. And if you kill them economically, you're killing them socially. And so Orlando Patterson's concept of social death is so important to us in Guyana. So important to us. And we've got to fight this thing, because the continuing of the PPP's assault is directly related to the lack of militant pushback against it. I am of the view, and I'm sure my guests tonight would not disagree, that the minute we start to push back militantly, we're going to see a different response from the government. Not that they will stop, because the devil always finds ways and means. But if you follow the devil with militant protest, half of what's happening to Black people will stop. It's in our hands. They're killing us economically, economic death. Years ago, Lincoln Lewis referred to it as economic genocide. And social death. I want you all to go look that concept up by our brother Orlando Patterson. Orlando Patterson. Social death. Social death. Good evening. Please share the link, because we're going to be doing it tonight. You know that when some guests are on, we do it. As I was saying, I had to go down to town today to get a couple of things done, and out of the children of Sisyphus. Yes, George. I mentioned when I was in high school, that's what we read. Orlando Patterson's Children of Sisyphus. Later on, when I got to university, I realized he wasn't just a novelist, but he was a really serious and top scholar in the United States. Orlando Patterson. He's contemporary of Walter Rodney. They all were at UWI together in the early 1960s. So he comes from that exalted class of top Caribbean scholars and so on. So yeah, I was not walking about. I just went to get a couple of things downtown. And of course, once our people recognize you, you have to stop and talk. I want to apologize to those of you I didn't get to talk to, because I was hurrying. I was rushing. I don't like to drive into town, and so I took a taxi to go there and ask the taxi man the taxi man volunteered to wait for me. So I had him waiting while I was doing my stuff. And so I had to rush. I didn't get to talk, but I'm here. And, I move around a lot, so I'll get a chance to talk to people more. Today was just as they say, what will you always say now? When you come in, they say, you're out. Well, for me, it's not time, because I come from the cold. Arizona is the desert, hot like a fire. So the opposite of time now. Please share the link. Please share the link. Please share the link. We're ready to roll here. My guests tonight are Tacuma Ogunseye, WPA Exco member, and Nigel London, who is Nigel London, and not affiliated with any of the party, any of the parties. So let's go. Good evening to all of you. And notice my brother Orin Newton, Bumba from Buxton. With all these housing schemes now that thing, people get in land and they build in a house and so on, and they move out. And also the Buxton people live in surrounding, schemes. But every day they're in Buxton, every night, you're seeing them in Buxton. And you could swear that they lived there. A couple of years ago, brother said, well, David come by me Christmas. I said, yeah, brother, I'm gonna pass by you. So I got my brother house in Buxton, and the place look deady. Me and see no action. So me call a little by me say, bye, is not here, brother Samuel said, live. He said, brother, live here. Brother, move out from here long. Brother, dead till I was scheme by a bachelor's adventure. So I had to end up going there. Brother said, Willie, you and know me move out from Buxton, but 20 years now. I said, but brother, whenever me there, me seeing you every night in Buxton, he laughed. Well, that's a story with a lot of the Buxton people. Although they don't live there, they hang out there every day, and you don't know that they move, right? I guess there's an attachment to village, the village. And all our communities are villages. Even Georgetown is a village. Georgetown is not this cosmopolitan, urban thing as we see in North America. Linden is like a village, and you go to the sections of Georgetown, the village, Wortmanville and Kitty and Campbellville and Tiger Bay and Almanton. They're really villages. So we're really a country of villages. And your neighbor spring just bury in a village. So no matter where you go, a neighbor spring will pull you back. So brother said, Julie, when I pass for go home, me not go home, me stop right above me. And then me go when me done lime. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. Good evening to all the wonderful people of Buxton. I am not forgetting you all because you all will have to tolerate me. You all will have to tolerate me for the next, don't know how long. All right, let's go. Brother Tacuma, Brother Nigel, London. Good evening, my brothers.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Hines, and you're welcome to your viewers and my fellow panelists.
Brother London, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks, and always an honor to share this platform with you, with all of you, especially with my brother Tacuma as well. So I'm delighted to be here. Look forward to this evening.
Thank you much. What's happening in Linden? Let's start there. Both Ogun and I have very fond memories of Linden. In our activism, Linden was always at the top of the list. You were always excited. You were always excited when you're going to Linden because Linden was like the Mecca. I remember we had a long march in 1983. Remember Ogun? And part of the march we went up to Linden, and I was in charge of putting speakers for the meeting at Linden and so on. And I didn't put myself. I was a junior then, and a certain lead in the WP asked me why I didn't put myself. I said because they got bigger speaker than me, and he said, "Well, you're young, you got baptized, and this is the place to baptize. So you are speaking at Linden." And it was my first time speaking at Linden. I mean, I didn't want to put myself to talk, but when the leaders say you got to talk. And of course, I was itching to talk. Linden has always been a special place. Walter Rodney referred to it as the cradle of the revolution. What's happening in the cradle of the revolution?
I am pained to say that Linden is by no means the same, but I'm also fortunate and happy to know that I was born in an era and lived through that era of Linden having some degree of strength. There are preparations being made as we speak for the hosting of the independence commemoration, and it is disgusting to say the least that the PPP has essentially invaded this town with their behavior. I got reports, it's been published, that the Regional Democratic Council chairman, Duran Adams, was not invited until about 2 days ago. So we saw major works going on in the town, and I realized something is wrong here because extensive works being done, major cleaning being done, and I knew something was up. And now we discover that they are coming here to have this event celebrated without even involving the necessary agents And we know for sure that Region 10 would have voted overwhelmingly for APNU AFC, but that is not to be considered by the PUP, of course. So things have gotten really, really bleak in this town, reference to what we're seeing. The pathways that I would have shown in many broadcasts, that, even by the school, how disgusting and deplorable things are by Mackenzie High School, the major school here in London in terms of academia. Now you're seeing trees that were not cut for decades being cut because Ali is coming to Linden. And I'm saying this because my view, and I will share this at the onset here, is that the outset that Irfan Ali and the PP must not be made to be comfortable in Linden, because this is disrespectful as far as I can see it. Why are roads being done, the highway that have major undulations, when you get down what's called the Miller's Ward Hill, suddenly it was paved within 2 days. When it was like that for decades, for years. They're just spending excessively, because this is showing us that money is available, but it's only going to be released when somebody from either Ali or Jagdi or someone says, let it be released for Linden. And I would like to say that I dare the regional chairman and Mr. Sharman, every one of y'all, to have Lindeners who understand what this is all about gather for a special ceremony. We must have our own thing and let the PPP know where to get off. But that's Linden in a nutshell as we speak.
Linden in a nutshell. OG Linden, as I mentioned, really was and still is a special place for us in the Working People's Alliance, and we always look forward to going to Linden, especially back in the days when 30, 40 years ago, when we were on the move in a more expansive way than we are today. And given what you heard from Nigel London there just now, what are your thoughts on Linden?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Our connection with Linden predates the WPA. Sections, at least sections of the WPA, our connections predate the WPA itself. Those of us in ASCRIL, the African Society for Cultural Relationships with Independent Africa, we had a very vibrant compound in Visma, in there, that played a very important role in sensitizing that community and instilling militancy and African consciousness and political consciousness in that community. And it was so effective that Burnham, was forced to respect it, even though he fought it, but he had to fight it respectfully. Now, over time, I don't like to say it, but I remember in Walter's activism, when dealing with the PNC's approach to the African community, Walter on many occasions predicted that when the PNC finished with Black people, they would not be able to defend themselves. He was making the point that by stripping the people of the historical organic reflexes of protest and independent political action, which is rooted in the history from slavery to present, and to replace it with party loyalty and party dictates, is in a way, you're taking away the people's capacity for independent self-defense. And, they can't act without the party. And I don't, as I said, I don't like to say it, we witness it today, that the African community have reached a point where we seems to be devoid of independent reflexes to struggle. Are we over-dependent on the dictates of the political party? And when the political parties are not in shape for struggle or have no interest in struggle, then we are just open to blows. And I think the PPP is taking full advantage of our condition, which is reflected in the African community across the country. So Linden is of no surprise. And you must remember that from the time the PPP came to power in 92, they have targeted Linden for special treatment. They have restrict Linden to just government TV, isolated from the rest of the country, and begin to a kind of process of indoctrinating. And if you notice, all of these key persons as prime minister came from Linden. Sama is now this one. So Linden for the PPP has been targeted as the kind of community where they could break the back of Africans, okay, and it is important in the overall design of things. So I think that the situation in Linden is grave, and the comrades in Linden really will have to, get up and get, as the comrades, in the entire African community. And I guess later we will develop some of those themes. But the situation in Linden is almost identical in the rest of the African community.
Brother Nigel, Ogun raised the point there about the inability to take independent political action, the over dependence on the political party. What's your thoughts on that view?
I share that view as a reality of many, but not mine, because I've always told people that I'm an independent thinker. I have no issue standing alone, which I do quite often. I have no issue making decisions that I know may be met with a snarl from the PNC and the PPP or wherever. It really doesn't matter to me, because my policy in reference to how I process things is simple. If I know that something affects me, and especially my children and the children of this nation, I will stand against it. I will stand publicly and address it. But I do not find that as being the norm, and that's what Brother Ogunseye would have been speaking to. That's not the norm among us anymore as a people. Because what's happening here, in reference to the PP coming, more so the Mackenzie Sports Club, they have wrestled that out of the hand of the membership of the club. It's not called, they call it the Mackenzie Stadium. It is incomplete, a construction site. And they told me, remember that, if you can recall, that I'm not allowed to go there. But there are people walking there, the paramilitary, military forces are there rehearsing for this flag raising ceremony. They have stage being set up, vehicles are in there, and I couldn't simply walk there with a camera. That's the level of hypocrisy that's hit our town. And nobody, not one soul, has stepped foot in there to say, you're not coming here to do this to us. No way. And that is reflective of, and please, I will stretch it, people may be upset, but I hold Aubrey Norton entirely accountable for this. Because if he is the leader of the masses of Africans in this country at this moment, then he has to take some degree of responsibility for what has become of the African man. The weakness that's displayed among them. Because this is the heartbeat of the PNC, as they call it. It's known. Linden got its name, the town from Linden Forbes Sampson Bonham. This is what it's all about. And to see that this is what we've become so weakened that we have to look for some political leader to act. And if this one doesn't act, then we can't move. And then if that one doesn't do something, we can't move. That's why I don't deal with them. In the context that they're too weak for me. It's not I don't like them. They are just too weak. They've demonstrated to people of this nation, to my African or Hebrew brothers and sisters, that they are too weak to act. So people are looking to them for action. They're not acting. And the PPP is just walking all over our community and all over our people. And I don't know when this will end. I would like to say this further, that because of the inaction of many leaders of this country, you are seeing now, if you come to this community tomorrow, how many African descendants, because we predominantly African in Linden, how many of them are running like rats, just doing whatever they have to do, whatever they're told to do, all around the place. Nobody's saying, hold on. How you wait until now to fix this road when it was like this for many years? How you took so long to clear this drain? I never knew certain gutters existed. You're seeing them now in the heart of the town. It was left to flood for years, as Brother Ogunseye said. But now, little black boys are with shovels and just digging drains, because that's what they're reduced to. Why? I blame it on the inaction of leaders. I have hold no personal beef with Norton. If Norton call me now, we talk as normal friends. But when it comes to what pertains to good governance, I have an issue with him. You muted, Dr.
I muted myself, says Brother London and Brother Ogunseye here tonight. Brother Ogunseye introduced that footnote of Askria in the late 1960s, early 1970s, really taking independent action. There were strikes. Askria called strikes in the bauxite industry. There was the Gillot strike. There were about 2 other strikes. It was a white man was caught in the nurses section, the female nurses, and the workers asked her call strike. And I remember Blackman, one of the top journalists at the time, I'm trying to remember his first name, I don't think it was Basil, but said to Burnham, this, you know, ASCRA is not a trade union, and how they're calling strike, you know. And at one time they sent for Burnham and he didn't go, and they sent for Jagan, you know, the bauxite workers, and that continued throughout the 1970s. I remember they had locked up some bauxite workers, tear gassed them in their cells, and the women of Linden walked into the police station and freed the men. This is Linden. In 1983, a bauxite worker named Mr. Leach went to work the morning, didn't drink tea, and fall down. And the workers dung tools and went on strike, forcing the union to represent the strike. It became a general strike. And sugar workers on the west coast of Demerara went on solidarity strike with them. They formed what was called the Sugar and Bauxite Welfare Committee. This is in the 80s. They remained PNC, but they were not waiting on the PNC to take action. In fact, the PNC was the government, right? When you had the Ryla strike in the early 1970s, where the government wanted to go in one direction with the insurance scheme that was left by the white people. And the workers said, no, we want to go in this direction. And they went on strike. What was called the Ryla strike. So Linden has that history of independent action. They vote for the PNC, but they held the right to take action as they saw it in Linden. And if you come to 2012 with the electricity strike, what is not known is that the coalition government initially went along with taking away the free electricity from Linden. And the Linden people said, well, you all depend stupidness. And they decide to launch their own homegrown struggle. And I remember we used to go up there quite a lot and give solidarity. And some of the Linden guys pulled me aside at the barricade there at Amelia's ward. Said, Dr. Hines, when you go back to town, tell Granger that we don't want no lampy-pampy person come. If he come in, if any coalition people come in, send a soldier. We don't want no lampy-pampy people here. They were very clear that their party wasn't going down the road they were going. But it didn't matter to the people of Linden. They stuck to they paid the price. They paid the big price of 3 of their sons being killed. But up to 2012, Linden people were defying their own party and organizing their own political action. Brother Ogunseye, and then Brother London, just your thoughts on those observations that I made there.
No, I think you're quite correct, and you chronicled it very effective, and we have to examine what happened between 2012 and the present. You know, I'm a little cautious because I don't live in the community and I haven't been. I'm not that mobile, so I don't have a history of frequent visits. So one got to be a little careful. But I think the comrades in Linden really have to study the concrete situation on the ground, as Walter would say, and to see what actions are necessary to help to repair the condition. But my general feelings is that Linden, like the rest of Guyana, where the African community are, they need the right injection. The patient in dead, the patient is in slumber. But if you give them the right injection, they're going to spring into action. And I guess as we go on tonight, we will talk about some of those things. But I think it's the right political injection that is needed.
Brother Nigel?
what I would say is that from over the past 12 years, 2012 to present, there has been quite a bit of public expressions of this disagreement and disunity in the party that would have not been known for leading Linden, and also inactivity. And when we transition from the likes of slow fire, more fire, bringing Jack Dio to his knees and letting him know you don't do what you want to do here again. That's under Desmond Hoy. And we transition to the likes of Norton saying, well, if you hold a protest, the people, you're going to put people inside and they're going to disrupt the protest. When you get that kind of weakness being exhibited and continuously manifested to a people, those who may have the will to act, because they're loyal to the party, they're saying, well, the leader, they're not showing us that they're ready for this action. And so they began to backpedal. But I also pay attention to the fact that since 3 of the young men from this community were slaughtered by the state, in Linden, there seems to be some degree of apprehension among many to say, well, they'll send the police to shoot us. When we had the issue with the vaccine, as they call it, nonsense, and they locked us out of the hospital, people out of the hospital, and I said, no, you're not going to lock people out in Linden, and people in Georgetown could go, Region 6 could go, Essequibo could go, but Linden is so different. It's not happening here. And the people decided they're going to block the bridge because the bridge is of course, the heartbeat, the pulse of the economy to a great extent. I remember when word was spread that they're sending busloads of TSU to Linden, people began to just disperse, and only a few of us remained because they were so concerned they were going to be shot. Even in conversing with high-ranking police officer, he said to me, African descent, he said, I'm not going to stand here and let anybody shouldn't kill anybody from Linden. He says, it's not happening this time. They're not going to kill anybody at this bridge. Although he said that to me, and he meant what he said, the people, their psyche was already marred from 2012 because the PPP will kill you. That's the message they sent to us. My message tonight, and it may be louder as we progress, is that it's time for us to send a message back to these, I don't want to say the word, to these creatures. We have to let the message be clear to them. For me, I am never afraid of death. It's the last thing that's left for me to do on this earth. They're afraid of it. That's why there are 50 bodyguards and all kind of people around, maybe listening, monitoring now, because they are afraid of what can happen to them. I'm not afraid of anything. I don't have bodyguards around me. But this is the time for us to send a clear message to these people that you will no longer drive fear in us to the extent whereby we are afraid to even act when it comes to our right and our mere existence. This is the hour. If not now, when?
If not now, when? And Little Prek has raised the point here, well, what's the alternative? United we stand, divided we fall. Little, that's a very important point you're making. And, you know, I think I speak for the Working People's Alliance here. We are not in the business of dividing the opposition. That's not our business here. But by the same token, we have to state very clearly what our position is. And it may differ from the stated position of the PNC, so be it. But it's not a case of trying to divide the opposition. God knows that's not what we want at this time. But the intent to not divide the opposition should not muzzle us. That's the point we're making here. We ought to say, well, this is where we stand. This is where we stand. And this is how we see the situation. Leadership is important. To Sister Leslie, who is on here, on this program here tonight, she made the point the other night and she's making it here tonight. You know, you have a problem when you have leaders who look back and they don't see followers. And you have followers when they look up front and they don't see leaders. And I have made the point here so many times that effective political action is when there is a synergy between followers and leaders. That is, the leaders have confidence that the people will follow them, but the people also have confidence that the leaders are going to defend and protect them. And I think the teachers, in their own small way, is showing that synthesis, and that is why their action has been so effective, to the point of getting the institutions of this country to work, such as the court. We have had problems with our courts. And, you know, some people have come to the conclusion that the independence of the judicial system is smashed. But here, the teachers caused that court to give us a flicker of hope, and some may argue more than a flicker of hope. If there is no struggle, if there is no contestation of the state, you are never going to get that. And that is why I think people instinctively reacted to Brother Norton. Perhaps not to the fine point of what he said, because indeed he didn't say he's against protest. But he spent a lot of time saying why there should not be street protests. And people hear that. Even if he said other things, they hear, it's like you saying to a soldier, give me your gun. Well, then the minute you take away the gun from me, he's no longer a soldier. He's no longer a soldier. Black people ain't got no cane to go on board. They ain't got no big business to use it to destabilize the PPP because they're not in the private sector. What they have is their labor through their trade unions, one, and their ability to go into the open space and go onto the streets and say to the government, we are here. As Dr. King said, that kind of action is usually the action, the voice of the unheard. That's what street protest is about. It's about saying, I want to be heard, not behind the blinds, but in the open space. My brothers, in a couple of days, we are going to be observing another independence anniversary. 66 and 58 years, almost 60 years of independence. And we have to ask the question, Brother London, you were here last year on the independence panel, I remember. And I would have asked you that question a year ago, how quickly a year goes by. We still have to ask, is our independence really independence? Is our independence really independence, or we just jiving, as we used to say back in the Black Power days, jive ass? Are we just jiving, or is this thing for real? Brother London, I'll give you the first stab at it.
I appreciate it. And before I speak to that, let me just, to those who are suggesting that there is some motive to divide the opposition, there isn't. The opposition has a role to play in governing Guyana. And the role of mine is to some extent, to educate or re-educate, inform or re-inform our people. The constitution of this country lends itself to there being an official opposition. And it has that title for a reason. The opposition has a responsibility to those who would have voted for it. And I didn't vote for anybody, but the point still remains that I have an interest in how the country is governed. And with that said, if there is weakness demonstrated by anyone who's called a leader, those who follow have rights, say, I'm seeing something in you that I don't like. You need to step up and get this right. It's not that they've withdrawn their support. They're announcing their displeasure in reference to an action or the inaction of someone. And we have to get that clear. I do not subscribe to any party being divided and broken up and all the rest of it. What I subscribe to is good governance. With that said, I do not see Guyana as being independent because we lack many people who are independent thinkers. We rely on people to solve all of our problems, external forces, and we ask them to come here and to do whatever it is. And that's why we have the likes of Irfan Ali, Bharat Jaggi, and others. Maybe I don't know if they, well, I saw they met with Norton, he was never the same person. Because those who are what we refer to as the international community, they play on the fact that Guyana is a weak state in reference to its military might. We are weakened in reference to our social structures. We weaken in reference to how we process and see ourselves as a people. And as a result of that, we are not given room and scope to be independent. The very constitution that we claim to subscribe to doesn't lend itself to independence as a people. We've got, for example, here in Region 10 and many other regions where you would have won the local government election, you won the regional election, and you don't have control of your town or region. That is absolute retardation and stupidity. But it's just a reality we have to face as a people. And so we don't have the right, we don't have the power to demonstrate our independence. When you can be told by someone, oh, Sarah Ann Lynch or whoever they were, at our election, I would go back to this again from 1 year ago. We couldn't go to deal with Donald Trump, but they could walk into our election center. Lillian Chatterjee, Sarah Ann Lynch, Gregory Quinn, and the other one for the EU. Just walk into a room as if they have a right to do what they want in Guyana. And people have to bow and start acquiescing and kowtowing to them. This drives me up a wall. We are in no way independent. We are dependent. We are a weak nation, and people are abusing us because of what we demonstrate to them. I hope I would see someday that Guyana truly becomes independent. Of course, geopolitics is important. Of course, international relations are very important. But when you want to control me, to tell me what I can and can't do in my country, then we have a problem. We are colonized. We're not independent.
Nigel London saying it as frank as you get it. Tacuma Ogunseye, you come out of that left, the Caribbean left of the 1960s, 70s, and the 80s, which has always had that critical notion of our independence, a critique of our independence, so to speak. And really the concept of neocolonialism, which Brother London is really talking there without using the jargonese. You come out of that tradition, Brother Ogunseye, and some people may argue that that critique of our independence is no longer applicable. Do you share that view?
No, I don't. But I want to join in solidarity with Brother Nigel in responding to the callers who are accusing us of dividing the opposition. I want to say, if the opposition is being asked to line up to drink cyanide, I don't want to create political debt. I am prepared to differ. And there is this false notion that is spread among opposition supporters, especially African PNC types. It's a false notion that developed since the Burnham period, that somehow, an opposition or a people has to be so monolithic and have to agree with the party on every single thing, whether the party right or wrong. It is that mentality is being applied to the wider opposition. There is no sensible reason for the opposition to be unified on all issues. That is a crazy opposition. The opposition have to be united on important critical issues. That is where you want the political unity, on critical issues that we define that is important. But to have an opposition with non-thinkers who just, coex, just for the sake of being together, is not good for any country. But on critical issues, and I think that we on the opposition side are very clear on our responsibility, but we have to struggle with this view among our people, our supporters of this. It's a non-political reflexes they're developing, a non-political reflex. It is not helpful for them, the opposition, the party, or the country. It is more helpful for the PPP.
Before you go on to the independence thing, I as you were speaking there, I have to come at you with this question, and for Brother London too. But when Africans look across the aisle, they see an almost monolithic Indian PPP support base, monolithic, sometimes uncritical, unquestioning. And in many regards, are they not fair to ask us, well, the other side is monolithic and unquestioning, uncritical. Why we can't be?
Because no two people historical experience are the same. Okay. You have to ask yourself what is working for you. The PPP monolithic approach, given their culture, the fact they weren't stripped of their culture, they made them cohesive, they got their own religion, and that works for them. And if something works for people, I would say, okay, why change it? The question is what we doing politically working for us? And I'm saying no, because our experience is different. Therefore, we have to develop a political response, an approach to unity and political effectiveness different from the Indians. And we have different tools. They have, you said they got the economy, they got trade, the thing. We then public service, I see how the PUP is giving special attention on treating the public service and sort of destroying it. And we in the military. Those are the tools we have. We have a little standing in the economy. And you're going to tell me your politics is not going to be influenced by the tools you got? So I'm saying, we can't blindly try to reproduce a political culture and a politics of other people, which is not consistent with our own history and our capacity to wage that struggle. I'm going to come off this quickly. From the time, brother, his name slipping me, he was on your program the other night.
Henry Jeffrey.
Henry Jeffrey, in responding to the protesting, he said there's over 190 something forms of protest. Now, since he made that point 2 years ago at least, I've been thinking about it very seriously because I'm a practitioner. But more and more I think about it, there is no people who will use protest methods or techniques that is outside the history in any consistent way. Mm-hmm. And when you watch it in 190 something or 90 something, you will see it will boil down in every society to what is available is probably 10, 12, 20 that are going to be effective. So while yes, there are all kinds of things, the question is whether your culture, allow you to use some of them. In the Arab world, a person will volunteer and blow themselves up in protest that galvanize the whole people and create a whole set of problems. We ain't got that kind of culture. In some places, people go on hunger strike and go to death to make a point. I don't know Guyanese are capable of that kind of struggle. So the point I'm trying to make is that as much as there might be many forms of struggle, it's going to boil down to what your people are capable to execute. And it's the same thing about this Indian PPP behavior and African behavior. The Indians' behavior are consistent with the history, consistent with the culture. It has been successful to them. But in our situation, we can't apply that. We have to engage in critical, unity and struggle. Self-criticism and self-criticism, unity and struggle.
Unity and struggle, Brother London. Why are we not emulating our Indo-Guyanese brothers and sisters?
I love that question. I love the fact that you were able to highlight that and bring it to the fore, because it's a very, very critical matter for us to discuss if we want to do so honestly. The PPP has got the appearance of this monolithic existence because they are the party I'm speaking to here, and many of their supporters. They're opportunistic, and to a great extent, they're plagued by whoredom. They love money. And what they do is they are silent because of what they know they will receive if they remain quiet. They have a record with Jagdio that whoever criticizes them is brought to nothing. That's how they see themselves. If you have a business and you criticize Jagdio, he will ensure your business comes to absolute nothingness. It ceases to exist, or you have to sell it to one of his friends and he controls you like that. So their apparent agreement firstly stems from their love of money and their weak, whorish mentality. Do whatever you want to do to me as long as it pays me. That's how they function. Secondly, what they have is they have an understanding from experience that if you want to go against the tide, we have the right, the ability to pay people to kill you. And we yet see certain commissions of inquiry launch into the likes of Saturday, Saw's death, and so on. If you want to attempt to go against certain things, we will eliminate you. The U.S. spoke about the years and how many African descendants were killed, and whoever were opponents, Ronald Waddle was one of those, you killed. And so they have got various means of making appear to be agreeable. On the other side of the fence, the African experience or the Hebrew experience is different, where we are open to criticizing. We're open to speaking freely to how we feel about our leaders. And the leaders will say, okay, then, well, maybe we need to have a discussion here. Why feel like that? And there's an argument that we had, and we move forward in what we may claim to be peace. The other side of the fence doesn't have that, because we don't have the ability, in reference to African leaders, to kill anybody economically unless we have political power. But these guys have the means of saying, stop doing business with this one, cut off this one's supply, do not give him anything, take your machines back from him, don't give him a loan, and it's over for you. They live in fear, hence they agree based on fear. The other side of the fence, we live on reality.
Brother Nigel London. Brother Nigel, there is a suggestion there for you on the screen about what should be happening in Linden on Saturday night. I think it's Saturday night is the flag raising. There's a suggestion there on the screen for you. Go ahead, Nigel.
Marcel, thank you for the suggestion. However, the scripture records there's a time for everything and a season for things that happen in this earth. There's a time for peace, there's a time for war. There's time for prayer, and there's time for action. Prayer, even faith without works, is dead being alone. If we gather to pray without protesting, without standing up to those who are oppressive, we are a weak people. When our Messiah Yeshua walked this earth, he was very clear in reference to what he did. He didn't pray alone. He went to the faces of those who were oppressing people and said, you are wicked, you are serpents, you are dogs, you are pigs, you're scorpions, you are of the devil. He told them plainly, he said, you're lying people, you're wicked people. Why did he do that? Because he knew that he had to protest. When they were selling and so on at the temple, he didn't go to the prayer and say, well, we have a problem, so let's pray and ensure we don't have this problem. He took a cord from his waist and beat them out of the temple. This is time for us to stand and act. We can pray at home and display publicly the power we feel when we leave our closets. I'm prepared to do that.
But Ogunseye, independence. What is the state of our independence 58 years later?
Look, given my age, and when I reflect, the night of flag raising and the joy and the happiness at the national park, and then Burnham and Jagan appear, and then we look back. It was a funny thing. For some reason, for many years, I haven't picked up a UC book, The Next Witness. And somehow I was strumming through my library and I found it. And I just decided to sit down and read it because it's a book you can read in 2 or 3 hours quickly. And then I look at the Jagan and Burnham at the time. And I look at present, at Jagdeo and Norton. I'm seeing the same dilemma. I'm seeing Burnham in Norton, and I see Jagdeo, Jagan. In terms of the fundamental issues of unity and independence. Now, independence means nothing if that independence doesn't lead, to the liberation of the colonized people, to a degree of unity that allows them to stand up in this hostile world and to make the best of their resources. And I'm saying that 58 years of independence, today we are worse off in terms of our unity and cohesion as a country. And we are in this state at in the context of 2 critical development, the border, the aggression by Venezuela, which started ironically at independence, but 58 years today, it is at the highest point in the controversy. And when we look at the country, now that we are posed as an oil-producing state with all the challenges that comes with that. At independence, we fought over limited resources. 58 years, we are now in an atmosphere of resource of plenty. And therefore, the political contradictions and the economic competition is stronger. But the unity of the country is probably at its weakest. And to me, that is my simple test for independence. Have we given the present younger generation a better country united with a common purpose, a country that is cohesive enough that they could have the assurance that their future is secure in this physical and political space, and that they could move forward in building their lives. And I'm saying, no, the same issues I fought at 16, we're fighting at 70, I'm 72. The same issues. My whole generation have been destroyed politically. We have been on the political achievers. Now the present situation is left to probably new generation on Norton and the younger generation. But I'm saying the independents have stripped us of any real usefulness to the country. And for me, it is clear that all the challenges facing Guyana, we are now worse prepared than we were in the 70s, the 80s, and even the 60s to deal with them. And I'm telling you, we're sitting here on a time bomb. We're sitting on a time bomb. And I'm hopeful, I'm still being hopeful against hope that our leadership on both sides will recognize the need to give real meaning to independence. When you're independence after 58 years and a state and a set of political rulers can see the justice in African enslavement and deprivation and know that that's something needs special attention, a leadership that can see, okay, the condition of the Amerindians who are deprived, okay, of a lot of political and economic space in the country and needs special attention. That has to be major challenges for independence. And and they only could be concerned with their own ethnic group just because doing so will guarantee their political survival. It makes a mockery of independence, and I hope it don't happen, because if Venezuela cross the border, you will see how independent we are. We will be fully exposed. And I don't even think foreigners will want to come to your assistance. You're too divided and weak and have no real sense of purpose. It is bleak. I sorry to end on that note, but
on this 58 years anniversary, 58th anniversary of our independence, our teachers are locked in a struggle against the government for bread and butter. It's the kind of struggle that our teachers and public servants and workers in general were locked in against the colonial government. It was what caused trade unions to be born. The reason for trade unions were that workers were locked in a perennial struggle against the colonial masters. And here we are 58 years after independence. The teachers' union, and by extension the public service union, are really fighting against a government that really wants to crush the people's organization, wants to crush the trade unions, wants to crush the workers' spirit, wants to kill them economically, kill them socially, and I think, in my view, to make them an example to Black people, that this is what you all will suffer if you all go against us. And they feel confident enough to do it. To, on the one hand, say, we love you all, we want you all to come into the PPP, we want you all. And by the same token, beating them on their heads. You have to believe that Black people are stupid. To be telling them, we love you, we want you to come into the party, left the PNC, and beating them on their head at the same time. There is something schizophrenic about that, but something so disrespectful to the intellect of African people that it gets me angry at times. Sometimes I cry, sometimes I holler, because I'm a proud Black man. I'm so proud as a Black man because of what we have overcome. And to see in 2024, people think that we are so dumb, we are so stupid that they can do that to us. And some of us are finding ways and means not to say, to hell with that. If nothing else, we are fighting for our dignity. You hear all kinds of things about crossover votes and this and that, and you're not hearing, at least from the leaders, the dignity of the African. And, you know, when we came out of slavery, we didn't come out with shot and pans. We didn't come out with motor car and motorbike. The one thing we came out with was our dignity. And that is why it's so important, Brother London, the teacher's strike and the dignity of the African.
It is certainly passionate,
yes,
very passionate point and thought process that I have. And that is my Africanness, or what I call my Hebrewness. What am I? It's important to understand, because you have no powerful ground in which you can stand if you have no true sense of who you are, and most importantly, what you've come from. The African history, the history of the Hebrew people who were brought here and so on, is so rich with resilience, with determination to say you may kill us. And I think that history has done us in the manner in which you just teach history in school would have brought even me to some extent to a place of not having great regard for what my foreparents went through until I became a man. And I said, no, the way you taught me things in school wasn't good enough. Because I began to see certain realities and said, if I'm unprepared to die for this, these people are going to walk all over my head. That is the African reality we have today. The PPP will do you just about anything they can. And look at you and say, you deserve that, and if you make noise about it, you're racist. That's how they function. Take what we give to you, and if you only make a sound, we call you racist. But we should not allow ourselves to slip in that frame of mind into thinking that this rich cultural history that we bear, or the shared as a people, the sense of pride in terms of knowing the power that came from us standing up to the mass and saying, no, you won't do this to us. That must remain within our DNA as a people. And Dr. Hines, when I look at the PPP's bid to take away from the African man and woman that sense of worth, self-worth, a sense of understanding who you are, they want to take that from us and say, if you come on our side, you'll be a dishwasher. You'll be a little nobody. We'll give you a little contract here and there if you're lucky, but you'll be nothing when you look up, when you look at us. You must always look up to us. We'll never look at you eye to eye. We can't allow our people to just slip into that frame of mind thinking, if I fight, then I'm going to lose everything. Lose everything if you retain a sense of self-worth. Lose it all, but don't lose a sense of who you are as a people. That's as calmly as I can put it, because I am seeing every day a group of criminals who lead this country, in terms of the administration, who are prepared to do whatever it takes to render the African masses second or third class in this nation. They will do whatever it takes. And then they'll have 2, 3, or 4 of them to say, oh, look, you see, Mark Phillips is with us. He's black. Todd is with us, and he's black. Tourism lady, she's with us, and she's black. Look at that, Jill. But they cannot say, look across the African divide and look at how you've advanced and look at how you've received reparation for what you've suffered. They won't do that.
They won't do that. Brother Ogunseye, the dignity of the African, the dignity of the African, and the teachers' struggle against the government, and the government beating up on the teachers, the dignity of the African, among other things. Over to you.
Now, the question of African dignity lies in Africans' hand. And my approach to this matter is that nobody could destroy your dignity except you allow them to destroy your dignity. And what the PPP is forcing us to do is to either stand up as dignified, proud Africans who understood and who value the sacrifice of their ancestors and their contribution to this country, and who who are prepared to say that the African contribution means a lot. And on this matter of African dignity is tied to African physical survival and the survival of our community. And for us, dignity is not just a question of emotion, it's a question of survival. And I'm saying the survival of Africans and the dignity of Africans relies in the African hands. It is we who are going to determine whether we are undignified or we dignified. And the PPP is testing us. Now, I'm going to divert a bit and come back quickly. You see, when the JPP came to power in 1992, a lot of people don't remember the military votes used to be announced. So the whole nation used to know how the army voted. Now, what Jagan and the PP did, and many African leaders, they weren't keen enough to understand. They recognized that for the nation to know how the army vote is an important political tool and inspiration to African politics. And they decided to take it away from us by dumping the military votes in all the votes, so you don't know how the military vote. It was a very clever way, okay, of beginning to destroy important cultural and political linkage to our political consciousness. And we were not race alert enough, okay, to understand the racial implications because we were more political, some of us, and engaged in the class struggle and so forth and so forth. And we weren't sharp at the ethnic level, and they were able to do that. Now, the teachers' strike. The teachers' strike is an important test, not between the teachers, simply between the teachers and the government. What is at stake here is the resolution, resolve the ability of the African people as a community to resolve, that they could achieve political objectives. This strike have become political not because the unions want it to be political. The unions are trying to fight an industrial matter in a hostile political climate. They're not being treated, the government is not responding, okay, as a normal employer, as an economic employer. They're responding as politicians, as political employers. So they have made the struggle political, and they're clear. If we crush the teachers, we crush an important section of the African community. They're clear. That is the politics behind this. And I'm saying that the time has come that the African community have to look at itself and to say what we could do to change the political tempo in the country, to create a situation that will make it possible for the teachers to win the legitimate struggle. This thing has nothing to do whether the teachers agree or the teachers want it. This is outside the teachers' hand. The teachers will continue to struggle, the industrial struggle. Okay? But this has become a matter for the community. And I'm saying that regardless of where the PNC stand on this matter, this is why the persons who talk about division, they're not serious in the politics. So if the PNC, for whatever reason, and I'm not criticizing the reason, if they feel at this time they can't do certain things, that is their right. And I am prepared to respect it. But it's my right and the right of others in the African community to do other things if we believe it is necessary, and don't wait on the party. And I'm saying, and I'm speaking now as an African activist, and I'm speaking as a WPA executive member. The time is ripe that the WPA, whether we like it or not, will once again have to move to the rescue of the African community, and in this particular case, to the teachers. And I will argue in the WPA executive in the coming days that we have to begin to disrupt and to create a different political atmosphere, okay, in this society. We cannot allow the teachers to be battered the way they're being battered by the government and we don't raise the tempo in the country. We have to raise the tempo, or we will be deemed just like the others. And I'm saying, I know the WPA's capacity, both its weaknesses and its strength. I know the state of the African community, but I'm a practitioner. And I know once the WPA go outside and fighting, the PNC can't sit in Congress place after the Congress are not come out and fight. So for me, I ain't too worried about them right now. They got the Congress and they got their problems, and I think they got to get space to deal with them. In the meantime, those of us have to fill the void and begin to address our people and to create tension in the society. The society needs tension, and the PPP must know. If they feel they beat the PNC down, and I don't think they beat the PNC down, I think if Norton tomorrow want to turn this whole thing upside down, he and the PNC could do it. It don't take much. But that is their problem. I can't tell them how to do it. In fact, if I tell them how to do, they might not do it. But I know that the WPA could use whatever strength and influence we have to begin to create a lot of tension in this place where others, both internally and externally, can't ignore. And I think that is where I will argue in the WPA executive that we turn our attention in the coming weeks. The teachers are left too politically isolated, and they're being taken advantage. And the courts in politics, Judge Kisun and the courts have took a very bold and patriotic initiative and put themselves on the line in the context of this political hostility. It is we, the citizens, who have to defend the courts and make sure when the appeal is heard, that the courts is under so much pressure that they don't buckle to the PPP, because the PPP is preparing to bring pressure to the courts to have their own way. And we have to prepare to defend the courts and defend the teachers by bringing counter pressure to the PPP. Whatever the price.
Sorry,
As
but
all WPA leader, I am prepared to pay the price. And I'm going to argue with my colleagues in the executive that we have to once again put the party on the line.
Brother London, go ahead.
Yeah, please, for just a minute. I didn't touch on the teacher strike as pointedly as I should have. We should consider the fact that in some schools, I'm aware of quite a few of them, one school has 50 plus teachers and 0 males. No male. The majority of teachers in this country are African women. We should not allow that to just pass by us like that. And the record of the PPP, this current cabal we have here, is to be abusive mainly to women. If you look at the complaints against Dharamlal, look at how they treated the women. If you look at how O.C. Rogers slapped the one in Babis, there was no response from the women. If you look at so many complaints with Charan Das, Ali couldn't talk for how long? There is something about the abuse of women and the PPP. Now we have Coretta McDonald, who's Jagdio's nightmare, Priyamanchana's nightmare. They can't help but talk about this woman because they are versed at attacking women. Now, with that in mind, if we have a political group that is led mainly by men, how do you not respond to the protection of your African sisters, mainly African sisters? Yes, we have some Armenian teachers. Yes, we have some Indian teachers, but we mainly have in the working class, in the GTU, African women. There's opportunity here for our sisters, daughters, mothers to stand in the streets for as long as they have to stand, to make it known that you are not going to crush our Africanness and our dignity as women. Jagdio and others are afraid of strong women. That's why they practice crushing them in the PVP. No woman in the PVP could talk to Jagdio the way that Coretta, Vanessa, and others talk to him. He would cry. He'll make the world a noise and try to get you because he cannot handle a strong woman. And we must encourage our sisters by our presence that they're not going to stand alone. And the history of Linden is known for that, like you said. Women in this town, my father was a boxer, was a general manager of this company and so on. women would go and tell these people, you can't fire my husband. We're not taking that. Women who aren't working for the companies to come out to the road to strike with their husbands.
Yes.
And say, you can't fire him and we done with this here. And what I like to say as well is, Guyanese all across the ethnic divide, take note. This administration, through Anil Nandalal, is seeking to take our money, to fight our teachers. Fight them for what? Fight so they can refuse to pay them for over 6 to 8 weeks. Do you understand that we are the richest country in the world per person, per capita? And instead of saying we're going to celebrate teacher service for years, you struggled, you couldn't buy a car and so on. We're going to give you grants and aid and means to survive. Now they're saying we're going to fight to not pay you for 2 months. You'll get put out of your apartment, you lose your car, you lose your stuff. Of course, we don't care. We wouldn't pay you a cent. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of evil, mean miscreants we have to deal with in this country as men on the other side. And it is necessary for us as men across the nation's divide to say we're not going to let you crush our women like this, because 90+% of Guyana's teaching force are women. What do we do about that percentage? How do we protect our women across the ethnic divide?
Well said, my brother. Look, I want to share something with us. I have to share this with us. I wanted to share that with us. I wanted to share that with us because it's not Yes. I wanted to share that with us tonight because sometimes we we believe that the struggle that we are fighting is a new struggle and that we haven't been there before. And I wanted to play Dr. King because he is the last person you would think that would have said black is beautiful and to love yourself for black people. And I wanted, of course, I played Stokely at the end, but we know Stokely is black power. We wanted to hear Dr. King and speak about the dignity of the African. And Ogun, I just love what you said. The teacher's struggle is industrial. And they're fighting an industrial struggle. But the context in which they're fighting that struggle is a political struggle because the bosses are not engaging the teachers as employers. They're engaging the teachers as political dictators. And I think that changes the game. Tie in Dr. King, Brother Stokely, Brother Ogun's thing about why this teacher strike has political implications beyond the teachers. Brother Nigel London.
It has major implications beyond teachers because of who is involved, who are the players involved. When you've got players involved in any equation or any game, and they're known for certain tactics, then we have to pay careful attention to what's happening here. And that's why I referenced or referred to what the main ethnic composition of GTU is and what's the response they're getting and the extent to which this administration is willing to go to fight the African Guyanese woman especially. They intend to, by every means necessary, destroy anything called the Ghanaian Teachers Union in this country and trade unions in general, because trade unions, generally speaking, have African descendants in it or low-class people, working-class people. Now, when we look at the response of Jagdeo, for example, to Justice Kissoon's ruling, he said Justice Kissoon was presumptuous to make. Now, how much more dictatorial can one be that a judge in this country who's supposed to be independent in reference to his thinking and who's supposed to be bolstered by the Constitution and the weight therein, Jagdeo says, you're not supposed to call Ali name like that, just like that. Don't do that. You're presumptuous. All because they can't get to crush the teachers they want to crush them in the man they want to do so. So putting it all together, I can see clearly that this fight is beyond GTU. It has become a national issue. It has become a women's rights issue because they're mainly women who teach. And the PPP is showing us that they're prepared to destroy any class of women, especially those who are African descendants. And this is where the lights of the GPSU become so important. There has to be a nationwide response to this that we're seeing here being done to our teachers, a national and international response. Because I would finally say this. There are those who, including Norton, who were eager to try to shy away from this thing, say it's not really a political matter and, you know, we have to leave it. No, this is a political matter. It has to be a political matter. Because for one, we have an attorney general involved. He's a politician. And the attorney general is going to appeal this case to the appellate court. In his capacity as the attorney general, of course, using Saddam Hussein, who's a political appointee. All right. So we have to look at things for what they really are, call them what they really are, and stand for what they really are. If they call it Coretta McDonald and say because she's from AFC, that's why it's happening, then it's political. Because they refer to her not as general secretary of the GTU, they refer to her as a member of parliament. They want to make it political. So if you want to make it political, my advice finally to Norton and others would be, let it be political. We'll fight you on a different level here. Because when you come to fight politics, it's no longer trade unionism.
Brother Ogun?
Yeah, I'm not too sure I'm clear what you want me to respond to. So pose the question.
Yeah, no, I was just making the point that this, as you pointed out, this struggle is the teacher struggle is a legitimate bread and butter issue, but it has larger political implications, because the governors are not dealing with the teachers as employers, they're dealing with them as political bosses. And so, therefore, it changes the game. Just your closing thoughts on that.
I think I will restate my position. The teachers are a significant part of the African community, and the public service, public sector is a very important part of the African economic existence. And the PPP since '92 have had a policy to starve that sector. And in so doing, by keeping them the wages low, they're actually destroying African community physically, economically, and socially. And it is not getting it is getting worse now. And they're doing it now in the context of plenty money. So even if before they could have hid under the fact that they have a shortage of resources, okay, and it's not simply a discrimination, they have no such excuse. So it is a clear, deliberate attack on Africans. And it is part of their domination policy. And you could only push back that kind of domination by resistance and struggle. I know about no other way. I even don't know at no point in human history that you were able to talk an oppressor, okay, to stop oppressing you simply on the basis of his good conscience, until the oppressor begins to feel that his fundamental interests or their fundamental interest is threatened by the very act of oppression. That is when they begin to get some sense. And we are at a point where Africans have to begin to make the PPP leadership, and I'm being clear here, not the Indian community. We have to prepare to wage a struggle against the PPP leadership to make them know that their interest is not secure, and that if they continue a politics of viciousness, it's going to be neutral destruction. That is where we are. And I don't know, in good conscience, given my age, that I could tell African people anything other than that. As an elder, I have to say it as it is. That is where we have arrived. They are trying to destroy us, and we have to tell them that we prepare to carry you down in this act of destruction. Mutual destruction, or we get no destruction, or we get peace. It's like two superpowers who all got nuclear weapons and everybody could destroy everybody.
So really tough talk here tonight. Go ahead.
Everybody got the same weapon. Nobody want to be destroyed. Right now, the PPP feel they alone got a nuclear weapon. We got to let them know that we also got a nuclear weapon. And we want mutual respect and peace. Or if we want to go to doomsday, we prepare to go to doomsday. The choice is yours.
Really tough talk here tonight, Brother Tacuma Ogunseye of the WPA. Really saying it, and this is the furthest we've heard the WPA on this matter. So stay tuned. Brother London, your closing thoughts.
As always, it is a distinct honor to be here to sit with elders, both of you, and to be able to speak to the interests of our people. I would never ever cease to announce to all, wherever I can, that loving who I am as a Hebrew man, or you call me an African man, doesn't make me hate anybody else. I have a right to love me. I have a right to love where I came from. I have a right to love the fact that my foreparents would have bled, would have died, would have fought, just for me to have a chance to be a free man. I therefore bear the right to ensure that my brothers and sisters who have the same descendants, ancestry as mine, we have a right to stand for ourselves. We are a threatened people. We have been attacked. We are being attacked. We are under severe threat in our nation called Guyana. And whether we choose to accept it, the reality will always meet us one day. So with that said, I encourage us all to join with the teachers Join with this last apparent straw of hope that we have. Join with them in standing against this cabal who's out to destroy anything called decency and order. Let us stand resolutely to ensure that we are able to see a brighter day tomorrow, because one is always ahead if you stand and you're willing to fight. Finally, I say to my brothers and sisters, the elder Ogunseye has spoken as an elder who bears the right to speak, to get us, the younger generation, to know that we weren't born out of weakness, and we should not die, therefore, in weakness. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, my brother. It's always an honor to have you on and to have your wisdom come to bear on our deliberations. Thank you much. Thank you, Brother Ogunseye. And I was just communicating there with Aubrey Norton. He's not going to be able to be here tomorrow, but Tuesday he will be on Tuesday. I have been missing Roysdale Ford. We haven't been able to connect yet, but hopefully Roysdale will be on sometime next week too. I have not yet reached out to Amanza Walton this year, but I will do so shortly. She's a regular on this program, as you know, and we're going to get all of them on to hear. We're going to have Brother Ogunseye come back to formally, along with somebody from the WPA, to formally elaborate on the WPA's position on the present situation. So that's as far as the parties go. I haven't forgotten the AFC. I know they're having their Congress coming up, and I will have to reach out to them to make sure all parties of the opposition, certainly the three that are known to us on a day-to-day basis, the PNC, the AFC, and the WPA, to give them equal time to speak on these issues. My brothers, again, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
And to you, the audience, I love you all unconditionally. And the uncondition doesn't mean that I am uncritical of Black people. It doesn't mean that I think we're always moving in the right direction. No. The unconditional love is something that comes from deep within my belly. It's something that has to do with the suffering of our people, something that has to do with the history that we have had to endure in this land. And so when I say I love you, it is unconditional, but it's not uncritical. But I want to stress the unconditional love, because it's a time when everybody's hating on you. Everybody, is either saying, Black people are done and Black people deserve what they get, etc., etc. And we have to stand together and push back against this onslaught. Only we can do it. Only we can do it. See you all tomorrow night. See you all tomorrow night.